I've got a quick programming note for today. Yesterday, I incorrectly stated that today's episode would be the latest episode of the Cosmosphere podcast. That will actually be tomorrow, Sunday, the 7th. Today, I've got one mission and a birthday that I'd like to talk about, so let's dive right in. This is The Space Shot, episode 237 for January 6th, 2018, Lunar Prospecting. Hey everyone, welcome to The Space Shot, your daily space history, pop culture, and news fix. I'm John Molnix. On January 6th, 1998, NASA's Lunar Prospector mission lifted off, its destination, and you guessed it probably, our moon. The spacecraft was designed to operate in a low orbit around the moon, mapping the composition of the lunar surface, measuring gravity and magnetic fields, and most interestingly, looking for polar ice deposits and lunar outgassing. I'll talk more about the ice and outgassing shortly. The spacecraft was spin stabilized, and I know I've talked about this before, but here's a quick refresher. Think of a football, and for my listeners outside of the United States, I'm talking about an American football. When a quarterback throws the ball, they impart spin on it to keep it stable and give it a more accurate flight path. The same goes for spacecraft. Spin stabilization means that the spacecraft doesn't have to expend fuel just to keep itself oriented the right way. This allows for a longer service life for the spacecraft, since less fuel is required to orient the spacecraft. The Lunar Prospector made important observations of the lunar surface and determined that there is significant evidence of large amounts of water ice in the polar regions. Readings gathered during this mission point to evidence that there could be as much as 3 billion metric tons of water at each pole on the moon. The spacecraft also carried an alpha particle spectrometer that was used to detect radon outgassing that's related to the tenuous lunar atmosphere. The primary mission of Lunar Prospector was to map the entire surface of the moon from about 60 miles away. As part of its extended mission, the spacecraft lowered its orbit to as low as 6 miles above the surface of the moon. This close proximity allowed scientists to make measurements at resolutions that were extremely precise. After completing its primary and extended missions, the golf cart-sized spacecraft slammed into a dark region of the Shoemaker crater near the moon's south pole. It was hoped that the impact of the spacecraft would release material that would be visible from Earth, but nothing was observed upon impact. I've also got one birthday I want to share today. British-American astronaut Michael Full was born on this day, January 6th, in 1957. He is now retired, but when he was an active astronaut, he spent time on long-duration missions to Mir and the International Space Station, as well as flying on multiple shuttle flights. His mission on Mir is something that I talked about back in episode 42. A Progress resupply craft crashed into the Spectre module of the Mir space station, compromising the hull and necessitating sealing off that module. Check out episode 42 to learn more. Full flew on STS-45, 56, 63, 84 at launch, 86 at landing, STS-103, and Soyuz TMA-3. He launched into space 6 times and spent 373 days in orbit. His last launch on the Soyuz TMA-3 was part of Expedition 8 to the International Space Station. Full spent 192 days on the ISS during that mission, one of which was on his birthday in 2004. I think spending a birthday orbiting Earth would be the best present one could ever ask for. Here's to wishing him a happy birthday and a good new year. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I'd appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes. If you leave a review, screenshot it and send it to me at John Molnix pretty much everywhere on the internet, and I'll shoot you a Space Shot sticker and a little thank you. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button, that way you don't miss any of the daily episodes. As always, the show notes have more information on today's episode. You can hit me up on Instagram and Twitter. Find me at John Molnix. I'm always up to chat. You can also connect with me on Facebook. Just search The Space Shot or click the link in the show notes. Tomorrow, I'm sharing the latest episode of the Cosmosphere podcast here in case you missed it. Some of the audio from my time at Spaceworks is a little rough, but it's still a great episode. I'm John Molnix, and I'll catch you on the flip side.